Hello everyone, Module 2. Now in the previous module we talked about how in limited recourse financing, i.e. project financing, from the debt financier's point of view, the debt financier is after all putting up maybe 70 or even 80% of the financial capital of the project. There are two questions that the financier wants to have answered. The first question is this single tightrope of cash strong enough to support the weight of the financing that is going to walk across it? But I said that there was a second question that a debt financier will want to have answered. But before we address it, I first of all need to raise the definition of risk, the word risk. And the reason that I need to raise it is that in the English language, unfortunately, we use one word, risk, which can mean two totally different things. There are two concepts of risk. They're totally different from each other. And what we should have is two different words, but we don't. Now, the first concept of risk, if you stand in front of a room full of bankers or lenders, and you say, well, what do you understand by the word risk? A lender will typically say, risk is all of those things that can go wrong. And that's not surprising, because a lender does not share in the upside of a deal, but they're certainly exposed to the downside of a deal. So most bankers and lenders spend their entire careers trying to identify risk and structuring their way around it. They want guarantees, they want security, they want events of default which allow them to renegotiate terms and conditions under certain circumstances. Now this is called solvency risk. And if this was not a project finance program, if this was a credit analysis program, we would spend the next X modules talking about solvency-related issues. But in a project financing, that primarily is not the concept of risk that I'm interested in. Of course, whether you're a lender or a sponsor, our first duty is to survive. Of course it is. And our second duty is to maximize opportunity. But for reasons that I'll explain later on, it's the other concept of risk that I'm primarily interested in. If you have a room full of fund managers or corporate executives, because corporate executives are investors, they're making decisions about how to apply the company's resources, the people, the financial resources to investment opportunities. If you ask those people what they understand by risk, they are likely to say risk is the opportunity to make money. Because, in their understanding, if you invest risk-free, then you'll get a very predictable and reliable return, but it will never be a superior return. Most people in their area of expertise feel that they can spot when a market has either overpriced or underpriced risk. And if you feel that you can spot the mispricing of risk, then presumably there's a position you can adopt from which in due course you might benefit. Now, it's this concept of risk that I'd like to have a go at defining. So if you turn up the slide in your PowerPoint pack, you'll notice that the definition is written down there for you. Risk is the degree of possibility that the timing or the amount of the cash flows is different from the original expectation. Now, what do I mean by the original expectation? Well, you've been working on this transaction for the last 12 months. You've been running around doing your due diligence, gathering your data, and so on. We have arrived now at the moment in time when you have to make a final decision. Do we hit the green button and go forward on this deal? Or do we walk away? What was in your mind at the moment that you made that critical decision to proceed on this transaction? That's what I mean by the original expectation. Now, to help you make this critical decision, you have in front of you a spreadsheet. And on the spreadsheet are all of the cash flows of the project, the outflows and the inflows. How much are they? And when do you expect that they shall occur? Risk is the degree of possibility that that spreadsheet is wrong. Now, if I wanted to paraphrase that definition that you see on your slide, the phrase that I would use is cash flow volatility. This is not solvency risk. This is volatility risk. And this is the concept of risk that I'm critically concerned with. Because when you're walking across a tightrope of cash across Niagara Falls, there are two ways that you can die. The first way is that the rope breaks. It's very easy to understand that if the rope of cash flow is not strong enough to support the weight of financing, you smash on the rocks. But there's another more subtle way that you can die. There's plenty of cash flow in this project over the life of the loan. There's plenty of cash. But how volatile will it be? How much will this rope swing around in the wind? Because the end result is the same. You come off the rope and smash on the rocks beneath. And therefore, if I have a project with a large number of variables, lots of moving parts, and or the degree of variability is very wide, multiply all of these input variables together and you get a very unpredictable, unreliable cash flow. High volatility, high risk.